Welcome. Today we're doing a deep dive into, well, a really big topic. It's sparking tons of debate, hitting headlines constantly. AI and jobs.
Yeah, it's huge.
Feels like you can't scroll online without seeing something about AI automating a task, stirring up, well, excitement, sure, but also maybe a fair bit of anxiety.
Absolutely. And the source material we're looking at today, it really gets to the heart of that tension. It basically lays out two pretty strong, contrasting views on it.
On whether AI will create more jobs or destroy them.
Exactly. Or, maybe displace them faster than it creates new ones, leading to bigger problems like inequality.
Right. So our mission here isn't about deciding who is right, not at all.
No.
We want to unpack the arguments in the source material, really dig into the key points, the examples they use, the counterpoints, just to help you get a handle on the core issues.
Pull out the most important insights from these different angles.
Okay, let's get into it then. So what are these two main sides, these perspectives presented in the source?
So on one hand, you have the view that AI is mainly a transformer and, importantly, a creator of work.
Okay, transformer and creator. And the other side?
The other side takes a more, let's say, cautious view, maybe even pessimistic. It focuses much more on AI as a rapid destroyer of existing jobs, and maybe even an accelerator of inequality.
Got it. Okay, let's tackle that first perspective, the idea that AI is transforming work, creating new roles, not just wiping things out.
Yeah, the core idea here isn't that humans won't be needed. It's more that what we do will change dramatically.
How so?
Well, the thinking is AI acts like a tool. It frees people up from the really repetitive, tedious stuff, the drudgery.
Okay, which lets people focus on.
More creative work, maybe strategic thinking, complex problem solving.
Yeah.
Things that need human interaction. And crucially, they argue it opens the door for completely new industries, new job titles you haven't even thought of yet.
And a big piece of this, based on the source, seems to be this idea of a huge productivity boom, right?
Exactly. That's key to their argument. They look back historically and say, look, big jumps in productivity usually lead to economic growth.
Which ultimately creates new opportunities, lifts living standards.
That's the theory, that it benefits everyone in the long run.
And do they give examples of these new kinds of jobs?
They do. They point to roles already popping up.
Yeah.
Things like prompt engineers, people who get really good at talking to AI models.
Right, telling the AI what to do effectively.
Yeah. Or AI trainers who
Yeah.
help refine the systems. Human AI interaction designers.
Yeah.
Focusing on making it work smoothly between people and machines. These jobs weren't really a big thing just a few years back.
Interesting. And the source also mentions how companies are changing, startups especially.
Yes, that's another point they make. They highlight examples. Shopify and Notion are mentioned specifically. Smaller companies using AI to grow really fast.
With leaner teams than before.
Right. The idea is AI lowers the barrier to entry for starting a business. So maybe you get more founders, more small businesses popping up, which is another form of job creation.
Yeah.
Just different.
And how does this connect to the wider economy? They mentioned unemployment rates.
Yeah, they sort of tie it into current low unemployment numbers.
Yeah.
The argument, or maybe suggestion, is that this could be partly linked to early signs of AI boosting productivity.
Following that historical pattern, higher productivity, higher GDP, eventually more jobs overall.
That's the connection they draw, though they do acknowledge disruption happens along the way.
Right. But on that point, this side seems wary of too much regulation.
Definitely. There's a strong point made against heavy-handed rules. The worry is that it could choke innovation.
Putting some countries behind others.
Yeah, especially when compared to places like China, which the source notes is moving very, very quickly on AI development and deployment. Overregulating could mean falling behind.
And is there a kind of summary analogy they use for this perspective?
There is, yeah. The source often brings up the steam engine.
Ah, okay. The classic disruptor example.
Exactly. Hugely disruptive, changed everything. But ultimately, it empowered way more people and created vastly more types of work than it destroyed.
But it took time.
Right. That's the key caveat they mention. It takes time. The word they use is eventually.
Okay, so that paints a clear picture of the transformer and creator side, as presented in our source. Let's flip the coin now. Let's look at the other view, the one focused on job destruction and rising inequality.
Right. So this perspective kicks off with a much more immediate sense of concern. The argument is jobs are disappearing now.
And faster than new ones are being created.
That's the core worry, that the pace is just too fast for the economy to adapt, for new sectors to absorb everyone. And they say there's data suggesting this is already happening.
And does the source name specific sectors feeling the pinch?
It does. It calls out areas like retail, definitely logistics, customer service,
Hmm.
places where they see automation, often AI-powered, making really rapid headway.
Leading to job displacement.
Yeah. And a major point they hammer home is the kind of new jobs being created.
Like the prompt engineers we talked about.
Exactly. They argue those roles are often pretty niche. They need advanced skills, technical know-how, or maybe specific human skills.
They mostly benefit.
A relatively small group, what they term a tech elite, rather than, the everyday worker in a warehouse or a call center who might lose their job.
Which brings us to retraining. That must be a big issue for this side.
Huge. They really question how realistic it is. Can you actually take, say, millions of retail workers or truck drivers and turn them into machine learning specialists overnight?
Probably not overnight, no.
Right. They argue the skills gap is just enormous, and bridging it for vast numbers of people is a massive, maybe insurmountable challenge.
And do they have examples of companies cutting jobs due to AI? The source mentions some.
Yeah, they contrast the startup growth idea with examples like IBM freezing hiring for something like 800 jobs.
Because they think AI can do them.
That's the reported reasoning, yeah. Right. Or companies like Wendy's testing out AI bots for drive-thrus.
So what looks like efficiency for the company?
Can mean a lost job for an individual worker. That's the direct link they make.
And a key element seems to be the speed of AI development.
Absolutely central to their argument. They say this isn't like past technological shifts. AI is evolving exponentially faster.
Not like the steam engine, which took decades.
Right. And it's often being used to automate existing jobs within current company structures, not necessarily building entirely new industries from scratch at a pace that matches the displacement.
And that speed, combined with automation, leads to risk.
A significant societal risk, they argue. If there aren't, guardrails in place, policies, safety nets, the potential's there for inequality at scale.
Meaning the benefits go to a few.
Yeah, the huge wealth generated by AI could concentrate, while a large chunk of the population faces economic hardship, insecurity.
So what do they say needs to be done, policy-wise?
This perspective highlights an urgent need for specific policies. Things like universal basic income, UBI.
Regular payments to everyone?
Yeah, unconditional cash payments. Plus,
The other sees rapid destruction, a tough transition for many, and a serious danger of growing inequality. Much more pessimistic, or at least urgently cautious.
And this is where it gets really interesting, I think. What the source shows us isn't just a simple yes or no on AI's impact. Both sides agree it will have a massive impact.
The disagreement is more about how fast and who gets hit hardest.
Exactly. How fast are the negative effects coming? Who's most vulnerable? Who benefits from the new stuff? And, maybe most importantly, what should we do about it? How urgently do we need policies like UBI or massive retraining?
And it's interesting, the source does point out some common ground, right? Like on retraining.
Yeah, it's mentioned that even though they disagree fundamentally on the overall trajectory and things like regulation, both perspectives seem to acknowledge that reskilling and retraining the workforce is going to be crucial. The how and how much might differ, but the need seems agreed upon.
It's fascinating how they use different evidence, too.
Totally. One side points to, new job titles emerging, startup potential, historical trends linking productivity and jobs.
While the other points to current job losses in big sectors, corporate announcements like IBM's, and the sheer unprecedented speed of AI compared to the past.
They're looking at the same phenomenon, AI's rise, but they're reading the signals very differently, seeing different immediate impacts, forecasting different futures.
So we've taken this deep dive into the arguments presented in our source about AI and jobs. We've walked through the reasoning, the examples, the core concerns from both sides of this really important debate.
And I think what this exploration really highlights is that, based on this material anyway, there's no simple single answer just sitting there.
No easy conclusion.
No, there are compelling points, real evidence cited on both sides. It really reflects these different ways of interpreting what's happening now, how fast things might change, and what we should prioritize as a society in response.
So the final thought for you, listening. What does all this mean? As you see the headlines, as you have conversations about AI, about the future of work, which of these perspectives resonates more? The transformer and creator?
Mm-hmm.
Or the destroyer and inequality accelerator?
Or maybe the truth lies somewhere in between, in that complex, kind of messy middle ground that both viewpoints touch on. Something to think about.